Hi, oh my God, I'm so happy to have you on my podcast. I know we've been rescheduling this because you were on vacation and then I got like the last minute meeting. I know you just came back from Bali, which is beautiful. I'm super jealous. So, me and you've been talking about entrepreneurship for over years now. And then I'm always very impressed how you start your business because if the first time when I met you, I was told that you have a restaurant. And then during the time of our first meeting, then you told me you have nail shop. And then recently I just found out that you're also into boxing. And I'm like, what else stuff like you pretty much do everything, like what other stuff that you don't do, right? So I just thought your story is going to be so amazing to share because this is truly like what entrepreneurship is. It just figure things out, you just go for it. Because I mean maybe you are, I mean how you start from bar, it's not even a restaurant. No, you do have a restaurant. It wasn't just a bar. When I
Yes,
right because
right.
when we got introduced by our mutual friend and they were like, oh yeah, you should meet her, she's amazing, she had a couple of bar in Texas. I thought it was just a bar. So then you told me, no, I have like Vietnamese restaurant. And then you told
Mhm.
me you have nail shop and then boxing gym. How did you start that? I okay, so tell me your stages. Like how does it happen? I
Oh
don't even know,
God.
right?
Yeah, sometimes I don't even know either. It's just when people even ask me, it just sounds unreal when I say it out loud. But I really just started off. I just love building business. I love business in general, and it just kind of goes from almost when you get started, you just kind of say yes to different opportunities. You meet people, you like what they're doing, you jump on board, and it's one of those things. But I started off in real estate is kind of my first
Oh,
real business. Um, and I say that loosely. I mean, I've done a lot of different things. In high school, I kind of got my nail license, of course, and then I started doing nails from there. Started flipping houses into bars, into restaurants, into boxing gyms, into franchise, into all kinds
oh
of
my
different
God.
things. Um, but yeah, it's definitely been quite the journey.
But like, what is the drive? And by the way, everyone, one of the things I can resonate with her so much is that we both are a single mom. We both have son. Um, when you were starting all this business, you were still a single mom. Right? You were a single mom all this time. So you do this on your own with no
Yeah.
partner. Yeah.
Mm.
How was that? Because I, as a single mom, I work nonstop and I just don't know how you balance both, right? So when you first start your journey on the entrepreneurship, you were by yourself, single mom. How old was your son, and how did you balance that?
Oh gosh, I think it's a
Right?
honestly it's a lot of survival mode. Just kind of my background is I kind of grew up born in Massachusetts, born and raised in Detroit. I moved to Florida, to Fort Myers, Florida, when I was about 12 years old. And then from there, kind of had ran into some family issues, and I ended up going to foster care actually. So I was in the foster care system from 12 years old until I aged out. And I guess aged out basically means I was never adopted. I never had an actual single home to stay in. I was in and out of shelters, temporary housing my entire high school career. And then yeah, I got into I got into a lot of trouble in high school. I was kind of like a rebel kid, kind of growing up. I end up going to different. I actually end up going to a different high school every single year of high school. Um,
Oh my
got
gosh,
into,
how you
got
meet
into
friends, right? That's another thing, especially when you go into teenager years. Yeah. Anyway,
yeah. I end up getting like honestly, I actually got expelled every single year of my high school. Got into a lot of fights. The foster care system wasn't uh, great to me. I end up in and out of runaway, in and out of schools. I end up graduating from one of those alternative charter schools. I think the entire school was less than 100 students. And so when I graduated 7 months pregnant. I
oh
had my
my
son
God.
I had my son when I was 17, 18 years old. And man, I guess from there, I've been in survival mode since 12 years old. So
Yeah,
the,
I saw your son, on your Instagram, and he's just like a big guy. I mean, he's not a little boy anymore. And then,
no,
because you look so young, right? And you are young. So I was
yeah,
like, how did you do that? Like, I guess we never talk about, we don't talk about age, right? So, like, I
yeah,
was just like, how you are, because one of the things we talk about was like, oh my God, you're so lucky. Your little boy is a man now, and I
yeah.
still have this little one I have to deal with. How you do that? Yeah, like it's tough. So I didn't know your background. This is the first time I heard. And, being the
Yeah.
fact that you were in foster care and going to different high school and still coming out making something on your own, it's just like, what was your drive? What made you to think I'm gonna make something out of my life despite all this?
It's just growing up. My parents have always been entrepreneurs, so I am like currently. So I am close to my biological parents now. We
Okay.
just had like a long gap from like 12 to about, I would say 20, 21, where we didn't really have a relationship. But from there, my parents have always been entrepreneurs. They came over from Vietnam as refugees in the 70s, and they've owned multiple nail salons, cabinetry businesses. So I've always been exposed to it. Most of my, well, actually not most, all throughout my entire time I've been in foster care, I was with my son's dad and his whole family. His dad, he was an entrepreneur, so flipping homes, building houses, building businesses. So I've always been exposed to that entrepreneur life, and then being in foster care, at 12, 13, you don't have parents to give you money or to buy you things. So I mean, already you're not old enough to work, so you just kind of got to make your way.
And then, so that's how you start. So you were saying earlier, you always on entrepreneurship. You started entrepreneurship pretty young because what you were exposed to, your biological parents, and in doing the foster care, you met the dad of your son, and he's also an entrepreneur. So you learn a lot throughout this, and that's now it makes sense. You start off the real estate. So your first venture was a nail shop, or it was a restaurant or a bar?
So my first my first exposure business would be the nail salon, and then shortly after I actually opened up a restaurant with my parents. So like it's all kind of started. So when I was 20, I guess like when I was about 20, I moved back, found reunited with my biological parents, and then we ended up opening a restaurant together. That's how I kind of started in the first Vietnamese restaurant. My mom, dad, they got into that and had the nail salon there, and that's kind of how we started. And then at the same time, I was doing real estate. So during college, it was when I did my first flip, and it was kind of a crazy story on how I got into that. Um, Gosh, so it was actually remember the whole 2008 boom, the whole bubble crash.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
I was 17, 18 years old. I had no job. I was just getting out of foster care, didn't know what I was going to do. And then they had this thing where everywhere on the radio you could hear, you can buy a brand new house where, you don't even need a job, no income, no anything. And I ended up buying a house. And I don't even think I had a job. Maybe I had like some little
What?
side incomes. I ended up buying a house. I went from homeless to buying a house like within months. It's kind of crazy. And then I was
Wow,
now
how
I'm
you
in,
even do that? Yeah.
because at that time you didn't need to prove anything to get into these houses. I don't know if you remember that time. It was just easy to qualify. They didn't. I had no business owning a house at that time, and
No, I remember, but I wouldn't, like, I don't know. I didn't think I would have the knowledge or the necessary skill to acquire a house. So
I
what made
didn't
you
either.
say that you just go for it?
No, I went into one of those model homes. They had all these model homes everywhere, and they're, like zero money down, zero proof of income, and you can get into a brand new house. And I walked into one of these showrooms, and I was like, okay, well, let's see what it's about. And yeah, they let me buy a house.
Wow. Okay, wait, where was this at? What state? What city? You
This
got your
was
first
this
house?
was this was in Lehigh Acres, Florida. right
Oh,
outside of Fort
wow.
Myers. And
Okay.
so, okay, so I'm excited, and at this time I'm just like, all right, cool. I got into a house. I have my son. My son's almost not even one at this time. So it all worked out, except the next couple months, things started going on the news about underwater mortgage and and all these different things, not
Yeah.
understanding what that meant. And so I started researching, digging into it, trying to understand what that was. And they came up with these new rules where, hey, the banks can't take your home if you're underwater a certain amount and all these different things. So a couple months later, my house got appraised. So I ended up buying the house for 124,000, and then ended up getting appraised months after I bought it for 40, not even 50,000. So then I was like, I don't
What?
even, yeah. So it was like, I don't even know what that means, right? So I'm like, okay, so they had to break it down. So what that means is you're paying 100 and some thousand dollars for a $50,000 house. So
Oh,
I'm like, okay,
wow.
well, I remember my mortgage at the time was $1,100, and I was just, and so I think I stayed in that house for a year and a half or so without making that mortgage payment. So then I just, because they couldn't kick you out, they couldn't take your keys, no one was buying the house, so I ended up staying in that house, and I ended up collecting, and I saved up my first like $10,000, and it took me a year to do it. And yeah, from there I end up buying a house for $11,000. I get everything. I had a cash house for $11,000, and yeah, that's how got my first. That's how I got into flipping homes. I ended up getting a house
Oh my God.
off of a tax sale. I started learning about tax sales, and from then on, I bought my first house for $11,000 cash, and I'm selling that one for about 90,000. And then during that time, I didn't have money to fix it up, so I had to learn how to do everything. I mean, I'm in Home Depot sitting there reading how to do tile, how to do drywall, how to do plumbing. And then at the time, my son's dad was a contractor, so he, could do all these different things. So then that's how I learned how to flip. And then from there, just moving forward, we end up going to these tax sales and buying up home after home and buying tax lien homes. So that you could just buy, there's homes you can just pay up the taxes, the back taxes, and then you own the house free and clear. They just write the deed over to you. And I started buying those and flipping those.
I,
So then,
you guys can't see her, but she's tiny. I don't know how she does the construction. That's amazing. And she, you have to follow her on her Instagram. She's not like the construction guy. Trust me. Every day she's all like glamour, like pimp out, going to the club, going to the lounge. That's her look. So when she said, yeah, I went to Home Depot and then I do the drywall and the audience probably to have this image like you're gonna be like with jeans and stuff. No, she's
yeah,
not. So this is really impressive. And like you learned this all by yourself, right? And then
yeah,
she's trying to just do it and hustle. But it's
yep.
like, was any time when you thought, oh my God, what am I gonna do? Or, like learning all this thing, did someone taught you? Was it a mentor? Is it something you did where you just kind of like, oh well.
No, I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have parents. I didn't have guidance. Again, as a lot of this is kind of like off survival. I've been in survival mode for a long time, and just I have a mentor now, but yeah, it's been quite the journey. So that, I mean, from there, end up flipping about in from that time on, I've ended up flipping about 30 homes now, and
Oh wow.
yeah, and
Were
then
you ever
most
scared?
every day I'm still
Were you
scared.
scared? It made two of us, right? Yeah.
I mean, I feel like as an entrepreneur, like, does everybody else just like in like this scared mode all the time? Like, I've learned to embrace it. I've learned to love it, honestly. And actually, probably what I enjoy the most. Is every day is a challenge. Every day is something new. Tomorrow is truly a new day. You don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know what you're going to do. So it's exciting.
No, that's such a positive attitude. I I think nowadays everybody wanted to be entrepreneur, but I don't think they understand the stress behind it and the fear that we constantly thinking. Like I always say, it requires certain personality
Yeah.
to take on, right? Because
Yeah.
a lot of people, including myself, I could easily just work for somebody getting a pretty decent salary, and then once
Yeah.
I'm home,
Yeah.
right? I mean, do you feel like it's like you said, it's constantly you have to reinvent yourself, and obviously from flipping home to restaurant to bar to boxing gym and so on, like you keep doing it, right? Like come
Yeah.
up with different venture. So like, and then for you, it's challenging. You like it, like you don't know who you're gonna meet, and so on. How you conquer that fear though? Because I know it's part of it is the survival, right? That was in the
Yeah.
beginning, but now you're adult, you're successful, you have a great relationship with your biological parents now.
Yeah.
Your son's adult now. Like, what is the drive behind it? Because when we were young, it's a survival. What about now? What make you get up every morning and say, you know what? I'm gonna tackle the next one. I'm gonna do the next one, despite all the
Yeah.
fear I have. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so my thing is I love to learn. And that's kind of like my superpower in a weird way. Like I love to be challenged with things that I don't know. I kind of am one of those that kind of go towards the unknown, and then I don't stop it. I'm obsessed with it until I figure it out and I learn it, and then once I get it, I'm like, all right, okay, all right, what's next? So that's kind of how I get into all these different things. I meet new people. They're in industries or in businesses that I'm unfamiliar with, and I'm like, I want to learn. Let me get
Yeah.
into it. And then it kind of dominoes effects into that. And I think for a long time it was confusing for myself because I feel like everybody else kind of had like their niche, and they do what they love, and I didn't necessarily do what I love. I just was just I I don't know if I was doing it right in a weird way because I was so involved in so many different avenues and different types of businesses. I almost felt like, you know I don't know, almost like imposter syndrome. It's just like,
We all
how
have
do I?
that. I have that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I struggled with that because even when people ask me what I do, it's just like I don't even know if I want to tell you, because it's
you're
like,
a
wait,
businesswoman. You are an amazing
yeah,
businesswoman. This is what
yeah,
entrepreneurship is. You
yeah,
like learning. You keep reinventing yourself, but
yeah.
that's what it is, right?
And and I think
And
that's what it is.
yeah,
So when people ask like, hey, what do you do? And if I say, well, I'm in business. Well, what business? Okay, well, people kind
yeah.
of expect you to do one thing or do the one thing that you're good at or what you truly like believe in and all these different things. And I don't necessarily fit into any of that, right? I just kind of do things as kind of life goes, and I pivot quick and I move fast.
No, and then I think that's one of the skill as a business owner, right? You have to move fast, adapt,
Hmm.
and I think that's one of the skills that is great that you have that. Well, tell me, your new venture are boxing gym, right?
Yeah.
In
Hmm.
Austin. Tell us more about your boxing gym. How is the restaurant, the nail shop into the boxing gym? The reason I ask that is because I definitely want to check it out. I
Yeah.
love boxing. So if I'm in Texas, which I'm probably gonna be in November, I would definitely want to check it out. Like, tell me about your boxing gym and how you got into that from you know
Yeah.
real estate and
So
so on. Yeah.
Yeah, so going from real estate and then going into, I had the restaurant and I had the nail salons, and I'm still doing the real estate. So I'm still like all this time, I'm still doing all of them at the same time. So when I opened my first, doing the flipping business, and I opened my nail salon, then I opened the restaurant. I was still in college at this time. So this is all during college. So during college, I went to school for accounting, ended up graduating, getting a job in, this is how the crazy life is. I end up applying for an accounting job to use my degree, and I ended up getting hired for like a training position for electrical engineering and power systems. So I was just
Okay.
like, what? I was like, again, here we go. Um, I walked into, yeah, it's just I ended up getting a job in power systems. So I did power systems for 9 years before I moved to Texas and got into kind of this world. And so it's life is a crazy story. I used to actually want to be a nuclear power plant operator. I used to work in power plants in control rooms. I did that for 9 years. A lot of people don't know that. Like a lot of people kind of know me
Yeah,
as
you don't look like I don't picture you like that at all.
no one does.
But not that there was not that there was a stereotyping what nuclear power plant people supposed to look like. But I see you in the bar for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I see, and then I also see you in the gym because I know working out is important to you. I follow you on Instagram, and I see that working out is one of the big things in part of your life. You constantly going to the gym, and you're in great shape. So for interest wise, I can totally see that why you got into the fitness, but
Yeah.
boxing is definitely cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was that was actually more of like a business decision. Again, I so it's what I would say is like you don't know who you run into. I end up meeting who is a partner of mine now. I ended up meeting somebody through some friends, and he was in the franchise world. And then at that time, I just only opened my own concepts, my own businesses in a small scale. I was never able to scale to like a second location of something. At that time, too, I didn't understand systems, process, and operations that much. I was just in just go mode. And so I met somebody who had a bunch of these stores and into franchise world and started understanding that. So I said, hey, I want to.
Hmm.
He I think we went to eat one time, and he's like, what's your goal? I was like, I want to learn how to franchise. And so I think a month or so after meeting him, this opportunity came up for Rumble Boxing. And I flew to New York the same day I even heard about it because that's where they originated from. I flew to New York, took a Rumble Boxing
I had
class,
to go
loved
check it
it.
out. I'm coming.
You have to
I'm
check it
coming.
out. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, go
And
on.
so I
Sorry,
went to
sorry. Yes.
no, it's
Super
fine.
excited.
Um, went to New
Yes.
York, loved it, came back, told my partner, and I said, hey, love it, let's do it. And so it was like, boom, that was it. We end up signing for 6 licenses. And so we have the Austin territory and the Houston territory. We opened one in Austin, and we opened one in Houston. We just opened the Houston one a month ago. So,
Yeah, I saw that. I was super excited. Yeah, because I was like, I definitely need to check out her boxing gym, and I'm like, this is so cool. We need to talk about it on the podcast. And
yeah.
for audience living in Austin or now Houston, so they should definitely check it out. So, being a single mom and having so many business at the same time, how you balance being a single mom raising your son at that time, right? Because we understand now, you were saying that for you, it's not really work, jungling all this business because it's thing you love, the people you work with are people you like,
hmm
so it's fun for you. But when you were a single mom, how you balance family and having all this business, like I'm struggling with that, so I don't know what to do. So what would be your tip, and how did you manage that?
Oh, gosh. I mean, there is a give and take. I mean, luckily I have friends who help. But when I had the salon, my son was with me at the salon every day. When I had the restaurant, my son was at the restaurant with me every day. Um, and sometimes I look back and wish, things were different but I mean, to make it work, that's what I did. My son was very involved in every business that I was in. Um, and so the
But
last,
I think that's good though,
yeah.
because of that teach him stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, I mean,
I
he
think.
got old enough where
Yeah,
by the time he was 10, he was working in the restaurants. He was serving at the restaurants. He's stocking at the nail salons. So he could always he was always
nice.
involved. The last three,
I'm gonna have my son listen to this. I'm like, look at Auntie On's son.
yeah,
He go to work with his mom all the
he
time
goes.
and was serving at a restaurant when he was 10.
Oh yeah, yeah. So he was involved in all of that. And then I had friends. If I'm working, my friends, I had you know a roommate. So then like she would be there. My sister would help a lot. So there was a lot of that. And then the last 3 years actually, he decided he wanted to go live with his dad. And so kind of the last 3 years kind of gave me the opportunity to really, um, just dive into work
Focus.
and focus and stuff. And he's back home now. He's like, hey, mom, want to come back home? And I said, well, come on. come on back. So he's back now. He's a senior in high school.
Oh,
He's driving and all of that, so he doesn't necessarily need mommy there all the time, but he's here.
yeah, he's adult. I mean, I saw his picture. He's tall.
Yeah.
Isn't he? Yeah, he's like tall, standing right next to you. And so you did an amazing job. But I think a lot of it is your outlook into life, right? Because you just go and curiosity and like even just this whole interview, like I know you were saying, yeah, you're in fear all the time, but I definitely don't get that from you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because when you talk about your journey as a business owner, like I didn't get the sense of like, oh crap, what am I gonna do now? Or this is a lot of work, where I'm scared, even though I know you
Yeah.
are. Like I feel like you just go.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I think I carry it well. I work a lot and I work very hard, and
Yeah,
I've always been that way. I mean, I've learned things that just, I mean, I can do a lot of stuff because I learned a
yeah,
lot. I can do a lot and I enjoy it. And I think a lot of people don't find the enjoyment in learning or learning new things, or, the unknowns and the things that we aren't good at. And I think I thrive because I thrive in that. I thrive in the unknowns. I thrive in what's hard. I thrive in the challenges. And that excites me. The one thing I like about entrepreneurship is just every day is different. You just don't know what you're going to run into that day. So that excites me,
yeah.
and some people would hate that. Most of my family, they hate that. They do not like that. They do not like having a non-routine, or they want to be an expert in something, and I'm kind of like an expert in nothing in a weird way.
No, but you're like you're a good, like you're good at, you're a jack of all trade, I
Yeah,
would say.
yeah,
You're a jack of all trade. And then I think the really good skill as an entrepreneur, if someone asks me, is adaptability.
yeah,
And you know how to adapt
yeah.
and quick.
That's right.
And then because, you don't just like, oh crap, what am I gonna do now? Right? You adapt.
Yeah,
And with business, I always say you don't know, and the trend change really quick. Things change really quick, and if you can't adapt quickly, you get killed.
oh yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. This whole journey has
So
been
what would be your
adapting.
next? Yeah. So that's why, like, you saw the opportunity, you see the opportunity, you jump on it. And I know your most recent one is boxing. What would be your next one? Do you know? Do you have any idea what your next adventure going to be?
Yeah, so I mean, kind of my new thing after the boxing is my liquor inventory business. So I've been kind of growing.
Are you going to have a liquor?
So I started that one. That's been about, I've been working on that one. With this one is not as sexy or Instagrammable. So a lot of people don't even know I have this, but actually my main business at the moment is actually my liquor inventory business. So I liquor. So I
Why would that not be sexy? That sounds sexy to
Does that
me.
sound
And
to you? I
especially you have
mean,
bar and restaurant and nightclub.
yeah, I mean
What kind of liquor is
that
it?
sounds sexy to me, but most people, it's people hate inventory. Like they don't like doing the inventory, counting, weighing, doing the audits. But that's where your money's at. That's where your profitability is, and numbers is sexy to me. So that's why I love it.
Oh, well, you did have your accounting degree, so
Yeah,
I wish I learned more about that. So, okay, so that's your new venture.
yeah,
Got it. I think it's sexy. Numbered is sexy. You're
yeah.
right. So, right? So when you're looking back, like, what would be the best advice giving somebody who's like you, who wanted to start entrepreneurship but is scared to do so? And like, what would you tell them, or what would you tell the younger self of you?
um, I would probably say, I mean, don't be scared. Like I think one thing that kind of sets me apart from anybody is just I'm just not afraid to take the risk. But one thing I would probably, looking back, I would probably say understand how to take calculated risks. Because sometimes I'm just the type of person, or I'm a little smarter now, was just take any chance, because that's just how it was. I would just say yes to anything without really doing a deeper dive into it. I've lost a lot of money. I've made a lot of money, but those are all just lessons learned. But if like anybody who's starting a business or just started a business, I would probably one thing that I've really learned these past couple of years is growth does not always equate to profits. So like there was a
Oh, that's a good one.
yeah, and that's something that was a lesson learned. Like it got to a point where it's like, hey, this I just opened a business and boom, it was booming. I'm making, I'm pocketing six figures a month. I'm doing great numbers. Let's hurry up and open a second one, and that does not always necessarily work, right? So it took me a couple of times where it's just like I think there was a 1 year time span where maybe I've opened five different businesses within a year and not really taking the
Oh,
time
wow.
to like baby each one. So again, I think one of the biggest things was like in my mindset, I was like, hey, it'll be cool if I own 10 of these, and let me just hurry up and open up 10. If a lease spot comes available or if something opens up, I'm just gonna do it and grow 10 at the same time. But yeah, I don't think I'll do that again.
No, but that was a good advice. Thank you. Yeah. So it's more like growing too fast. And then you saying that when you get a new business, instead of trying to grow so fast, it doesn't mean the growth doesn't mean profitable, right? So
Right.
you have to think about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
No,
some
that's a really good one, everyone.
yeah, so a
Yeah,
lot of people
listen
are
to
just
this.
like,
Yeah.
hey, I want to open four restaurants next year. Why, right? I mean, you probably could, but why? I did it. Why did I do it? Would I do it again? Probably not. But I've opened concepts and it did really well. I said, let's go to open a new one, and I'll take all the profits and sink it in the other one, and then lose the profits over there. So I would focus on cash flow, focus on the money, and not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily growth in multiple locations,
Mm-hmm.
because you can make multiple X amounts in one location if you're smart, honestly, versus sinking all of your
Mm-hmm.
profits into the next venture, next venture, next venture. So that's probably what I would advise somebody who wants to be a serial entrepreneur, open multiple businesses.
No, but that's really good. Thank you. I think, during the interview, for my takeaway from your interview, um, is I really think important is not to fear the unknown, right? And then I think a lot of us have a fear for that. And just because, you're going through all the stuff and you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't mean that there's no fear, but it's more like how you deal with the fear. And curiosity, that is also a good character to have. And I realized that with life, not just with business or with anything, keeping that curiosity is always a great thing.
Yeah.
Um, so those are my two biggest takeaway from our conversation. Obviously, there's more, but if I had to like tell somebody, I would say, hey, I had this great interview with on today, and what I learned from you. Thank you for sharing this moment with me, because I always learn something. I love it, and you're obviously one of those female entrepreneur that I wanted to learn from. And by our conversation, it really taught me about, well, the last thing you were saying, growth isn't equivalent to profitability, right? Because I'm the same way, and not to be have fear with the unknown. And thank you. Those are really great advice, and then I hope just so many more.
Yeah.
It's like I also love the fact that you choose doing stuff what you love and people you work with. I mean, we spend most of the time with people we work with, right? That's just the way it
Yeah.
is. So it's important to be with the people you really like and work with.
Yeah.
So yeah, so thank you.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to try it out, your boxing gym,
Yes.
when I go to Austin. And congratulations on your new opening in Houston.
Thank you.
So audience, if you live in Houston or Austin, please check it out. And I'm looking forward to your next venture, and I do think the liquid inventory is sexy, because the number is sexy.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Juan. Thank you so much, and we'll speak to you soon.
All right. Thank you for having me.